Cambodia, Thailand agreed to allow border inspection by ASEAN observers. Israel launches 2 separate strikes on eastern Lebanon. Good afternoon and Salam Malaysia Madani. Thanks for tuning in. You're watching World Today with me, Moina Priya. Cambodia and Thailand's top defense officials agreed on Thursday to allow observers from the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, a regional bloc, to inspect disputed border areas and help ensure hostilities do not resume following a violent 5-day conflict that ended in a ceasefire late in July. Cambodian Defence Minister Thi Siha and Thailand's Acting Defence Minister Nathapon Narpanit met at Malaysia's Armed Forces headquarters in Kuala Lumpur on Thursday to thrash out the terms of a permanent cessation of hostilities.
ท้ายที่สุดแล้วไทยและกัมพูชาเป็นประเทศเพื่อนบ้านที่มีพรมแดนติดกันและย้ายหนีจากกันไม่ได้เราเป็นสมาชิกของครอบครัวอาเซียนด้วยกันหากทั้งสองประเทศสามารถแก้ไขปัญหาต่างๆได้อย่างรวดเร็วก็จะนำความสันติภาพมาสู่พื้นที่ชายแดนและประชาชนของทั้งสองประเทศก็จะได้กลับมาใช้ชีวิตเป็นปกติอย่างสงบสุขอีกครั้งขอบคุณครับ
In this spirit, Cambodia reaffirmed its unwavering commitment to fully and faithfully implementing the common understanding reached during the special meeting of 28 July 2025, particularly the ceasefire agreement and the establishment of an ASEAN Observer Team, AOT, led by Malaysia to verify and ensure the effective implementation.
United Nations Secretary-General Antonio Guterres is pleased to see the leaders of Cambodia and Thailand work to halt fighting along the disputed border between the two countries. Farhan Haq, deputy spokesperson for the UN chief, announced the matter at a press briefing in New York on Thursday.
The Secretary-General
The spokesperson made the remarks in response to a media query after Cambodia and Thailand reached a consensus on the details of the ceasefire and signed an agreement at the extraordinary meeting of the General Border Committee, GBC, held in Malaysia. According to a joint statement following the talks hosted at the Malaysian Ministry of Defence, both sides agreed to a ceasefire involving all types of weapons, pledging to avoid unprovoked firing towards each other's position or troops, and agreed not to increase force strength along the border. Armed clashes between Cambodian and Thai forces erupted on 24th July along their border. The two countries agreed to a ceasefire on the afternoon of 28th July, which took effect at midnight the same day. His Majesty Sultan Ibrahim, King of Malaysia, on Thursday visited Tochka Kipenya, a technology and innovation center in Moscow, as part of his state visit to Russia. Upon arrival, His Majesty was received by Dmitry Peskov, advisor to the President of the Russian Federation, and Alexei Ponomarev, a senior vice president of the Skolkovo Institute of Science and Technology. Accompanying the king were Defence Minister Datuk Sri Muhammad Khalid Nordin, who is also the minister in attendance, Foreign Ministry Secretary-General Datuk Sri Amran Mohammad Zain, and Malaysian Ambassador to Russia Datuk Cheong Lun Lai. During the hour-long visit, Sultan Ibrahim toured an exhibition showcasing Russian drone technology, where Peskov briefed His Majesty on various technological development initiatives. The exhibition also featured a wide array of drones designed for diverse applications, highlighting Russia's growing capabilities in the unmanned aerial systems sector. It features around 750 products from more than 200 domestic developers. Sultan Ibrahim arrived in Moscow on Tuesday. It marked the first visit by a Malaysian monarch to Russia since the two countries established diplomatic relations in 1967. His trip continues until the 10th of August. Russia said on Thursday that its forces had damaged a key railway hub in Ukraine's central Dnipropetrovsk region over the past 24 hours, while Ukraine reported that it had hit several Russian targets, including landing craft and radar systems. Russia's Ministry of Defense said in its latest briefing that the key railway hub was used to help Ukrainian forces transport weapons and military equipment to the Donbas region. The General Staff of the Ukrainian Armed Forces said the attacks on Russian targets were carried out by combat drones, adding that in Crimea, its drones also hit Russian air defense facilities. Russian presidential aide Yuri Ushakov said on Thursday that Russia and the United States have reached an agreement on a meeting between the two countries' presidents in the coming days. At the proposal of the American side, an agreement was in principle reached to hold a bilateral high-level meeting in the coming days between President Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Ushakov said Russian authorities have now launched concrete preparations in coordination with their American counterparts. Now, at least 6 people have been killed and 10 others wounded in 2 separate Israeli strikes on eastern Lebanon in its latest near-daily violation of a U.S.-brokered November ceasefire in a war with Lebanese group Hezbollah. Lebanon's state-run national news agency, NNA, citing a health ministry statement, said a strike hit a vehicle on Thursday on the Al-Masna International Road in the Bekaa Valley, killing 5 people and injuring 10 others. Another drone strike killed a Lebanese civilian in the town of Kafar Dan, west of Baalbek in eastern Lebanon. The reported strikes came as Lebanon's government endorsed a U.S.-backed proposal for Hezbollah to be disarmed by the end of the year. A Syrian national was killed earlier and 2 others were injured in an overnight Israeli strike on the town of Deir Siyan in the Marjayun district of southern Lebanon. According to NNA, the Israeli army also targeted the northern outskirts of Deir Siyan near the Litani River, as well as a garage and bulldozers near residential areas. In a military statement, the Israeli army claimed to have struck Hezbollah infrastructure sites in the attack. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah began on the 8th of October 2023 as the Lebanese group launched strikes in solidarity with the Palestinian group Hamas in Gaza, which was coming under Israeli attack. Lebanon's information minister said the cabinet had approved on Thursday only the objectives of a U.S. proposal for disarming Hezbollah by the end of the year, along with ending Israel's military operations in the country, but they did not discuss the full details of it. Lebanon's cabinet met on Thursday to continue its discussions on U.S. proposals to disarm Hezbollah within a specific timetable.
استكمل مجلس الوزراء بناء على ذلك النقاش في البند الأول من جلسته تاريخ 5/8/2025 ووافق على الأهداف الواردة في مقدمة الورقة التي تقدم بها الجانب الأمريكي بشأن تمديد وتثبيت إعلان وقف الأعمال العدائية بين لبنان وإسرائيل في 27 تشرين الثاني 2024 من أجل تعزيز حل دائم وشامل.
The objectives of the U.S. proposal include phasing out the armed presence of non-state actors, including Hezbollah, deploying Lebanese forces to key border and internal areas, ensuring Israel's withdrawal from the 5 positions, resolving prisoner issues through indirect talks, and permanently demarcating Lebanon's borders with Israel and Syria. Hezbollah had no immediate comment on the proposal, but 3 political sources told that ministers from the Iran-backed group and their allies withdrew from Thursday's cabinet meeting in protest at discussions of the proposal. Meanwhile, State Department Principal Deputy Spokesperson Tommy Pigott said that the U.S. government welcomes the Lebanese government's decision to task the Lebanese armed forces to bring all weapons under state control.
Yes, what I can say is the United States welcomes the Lebanese government's decision on Tuesday to task the Lebanese armed forces with a plan to bring all weapons under state control by the end of the year. This is an important step towards Lebanese sovereignty. We continue to watch developments in Lebanon very closely. Special Envoy Tom Barrack made it clear what the president needs to see. As long as Hezbollah retains arms, words will not suffice. The Lebanese armed forces must fully commit and act now to fully implement the government's decision. The credibility of Lebanon's government rests on its ability to match principle with practice.
I mean, how?
The U.S. has presented Lebanon with a plan for Hezbollah disarmament by year-end, along with ending Israel's military operations in the country and the withdrawal of its troops from the 5 positions in South Lebanon.
We've also seen comments here on...
Coming up next, Trump nominates Stephen Miron to fill open spot on Fed board. U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday said he will nominate Council of Economic Advisers Chairman Stephen Miron to serve as a Federal Reserve Governor. Miron would fill the position opened by Fed Governor Adriana Kugler's surprise resignation announced last week as she returns to her tenured professorship at Georgetown University. The term is set to expire on 31st January 2026 and is subject to approval by the Senate. Miron has advocated for a far-reaching overhaul of Fed governance that would include shortening board member terms, putting them under the clear control of the president, and ending the revolving door between the executive branch and the Fed. Miron is also a past critic of the Fed, specifically its aggressive stimulus actions during the COVID crisis. Trump has unsuccessfully pushed the Fed to cut rates. Miron, if confirmed by the Senate, would have one of the 12 votes on monetary policy at the Fed, which voted 9-2 last month to keep rates steady. Now, China's foreign exchange reserves total $3.2922 trillion US dollars at the end of July 2025, which was down $25.5 billion US dollars or 0.76% from the end of June, based on official data as of Thursday. According to a statement by the China State Administration of Foreign Exchange, the US dollar index rose last month while global financial asset prices saw both rises and falls, impacted by factors such as the macroeconomic data, monetary policies, and economic outlooks of major economies. The administration also said that the decline in China's foreign exchange reserves was due to the combined effect of exchange rate conversions and asset price fluctuations. The fundamentals and basic trend of China's long-term economic development remains unchanged, underpinned by a solid foundation, multiple advantages, strong resilience, and vast potential. These factors help maintain the overall stability of the country's foreign exchange reserves, as explained by the Chinese administration. The president of Azerbaijan, Ilham Aliyev, and ExxonMobil signed an energy deal on Thursday at the Waldorf Astoria Hotel in Washington. The agreement comes a day before U.S. President Donald Trump is expected to host the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia for an official peace signing ceremony at the White House on Friday. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said the U.S. will also be signing bilateral economic agreements with the two countries. Armenia and Azerbaijan have been at odds since the late 1980s, when Nagorno-Karabakh, an Azerbaijani region that had a mostly ethnic Armenian population, broke away from Azerbaijan with support from Armenia. Both Armenia and Azerbaijan won independence from the Soviet Union in 1991. A peace deal could transform the South Caucasus, an energy-producing region neighboring Russia, Europe, Turkey, and Iran that is crisis-crossed by oil and gas pipelines, but riven by closed borders and long-standing ethnic conflicts. They are to sign a framework aimed at reaching a concrete pathway to peace and addressing a long-simmering transit issue. Now, firefighters continued efforts to contain the spread of the wildfires in Ode on Thursday, now in its third day of burning. Now, local reports indicate that one person has died and another remains missing, while at least 36 homes have been destroyed and thousands more are without electricity. Much of the area has now been evacuated as the fire is now moving slower but still not under control. Emergency responders are still at the scene as firefighters battle to extinguish the remaining hotspots. Large clouds of smoke continue to rise from the forest while charred homes and abandoned vehicles reveal the devastating aftermath of what is the biggest wildfire in France since 1949. Authorities have deployed over 2,500 firefighters to contain the flames, with 9 responders and civilians reported injured. In recent years, the Aude department has seen an increase in wildfires, a trend worsened by reduced rainfall and the removal of vineyards, which had previously helped slow the spread of fires. A wildfire broke out in Turkey's northern province in Karabuk on Thursday, more than a week after another blaze that raged for 6 days was contained. Turkey's General Directorate of Forestry said 2 firefighting planes and 12 helicopters, as well as dozens of fire trucks and hundreds of personnel, were working to contain the fire. Video showed the smoke billowing from the hills as flames rose near several houses in the area. Locals and firefighters rushed to put out the flames as they quickly engulfed trees. Hundreds of wildfires broke out across Turkey this summer with record high temperatures, dry weather and high winds exacerbating conditions. Hot and dry summers are common in the Mediterranean region, but more intense heat waves have contributed to destructive wildfires in recent years amid fast-rising temperatures across the globe. Just over a week ago, another wildfire had raged outside the country's 4th largest city, Bursa, which forced more than 3,500 residents in the area to flee their homes. The country had battled at least 44 separate fires that day. Chilean police launched an investigation into the deadly collapse of the El Teniente copper mine that claimed 6 lives last week. Now, police showed forensic teams collecting evidence from inside the world's largest underground copper mine. The tragic accident occurred at the end of July when a 4.2 magnitude earthquake triggered a tunnel collapse in the Andesita region of the mine, bringing the total death toll to 6 workers. The investigation comes as Chilean prosecutors launched a criminal investigation to determine whether any safety standards were violated. Meanwhile, copper miner Codelco has reportedly asked Chile's mining regulator for permission to reopen part of the flagship mine. El Teniente, which has been in production since 1905, represents the largest underground copper operation in the world, stretching over 4,500 kilometers of tunnels in the Andes Mountains and producing 356,000 metric tons of copper last year. The Chilean company is convening a panel of international experts to audit the El Teniente mine and establish what exactly happened as authorities work to determine whether the earthquake was naturally occurring or caused by mining activity. Now, a landslide on Thursday blocked roads in the Bathwari village, Uttarakhand, India, with excavators clearing debris as rescue operations continue. The swollen river, landslides and broken roads have hampered relief efforts. Rescue and relief efforts continue in Uttarakhand's Uttarkashi district after flash floods hit the Kir Ganga River on Tuesday, leaving 4 dead and dozens missing. Entire villages have been submerged in sludge, roads remain blocked, and several areas are still cut off due to landslides and heavy rain.
यहाँ के जगह के नाम पप्पड़गाड़ है। ये स्लाइडिंग 2 बार हो गई, इससे पहले भी हुआ था। और इसके बाद ये है कि बारिश के होने से हमारा जो ऊपर वो क्या लेमचा घाट में पुल टूटने के कारण, पेड़ आने के कारण ये बाड़े बढ़ गए, इसलिए धसाव है।
Rawat added that forward areas remain at high risk with landslides washing away several locations. As of Thursday, ongoing rescue and relief operations have taken precedence, and scientific investigations into the cause of the disaster have not yet begun. Floods impacted hotels and residential buildings in Darali, situated 8,600 feet above sea level, as waves swept through the area, destroying homes and sweeping away residents. A train collided with a staff bus at a railway crossing in Naivasha, Kenya on Thursday. As emergency workers said, at least 4 people were killed and several others injured. Now, the bus, operated by the Kenya Pipeline Company, was carrying employees who had completed a morning training session in the area. A Kenya Red Cross worker at the scene informed that 4 bodies had been recovered from the wreckage. The company did not confirm the number of casualties. Local media cited a police commander saying at least 6 people had died and scores were injured. One eyewitness said the bus was full at the time of the crash. The eyewitness said there were many injured as the bus was carrying many people who are employees of the Kenya Pipeline Company. Those who have been carried by the ambulance were also many. Footage from the scene showed emergency workers retrieving bodies from the mangled bus, with police and bystanders gathered nearby. Ghana's President John Dramani Mahama promised a thorough investigation into a military helicopter crash that killed 8 people on Wednesday, including 2 senior government ministers, in a somber national address on Thursday evening. The crash, which occurred on Wednesday in the Adansi Akforom region, claimed the lives of Defence Minister Edward Kofi Omane Boama and Environment, Science and Technology Minister Al-Haji Dr. Murtala Mohammed, along with 3 other passengers and 3 crew members from the Ghana Armed Forces.
And as we mourn, questions about the cause of this tragedy are only natural and important. And I want to assure the families and the nation that the Ghana Armed Forces has initiated a full and transparent investigation into the circumstances of this crash. An investigative board of inquiry has been set up to investigate the cause of the crash. The flight data and cockpit voice recorders have both been retrieved.
The president, visibly emotional, described the incident as a deep personal loss, extending condolences to the families of the victims on behalf of the government and the people of Ghana. The helicopter was en route to the gold mining town of Obuasi when the accident occurred. Paramount Global and Skydance Media have completed their $8.4 billion merger that was announced more than a year ago, capping a long-drawn deal process marked by political scrutiny and shareholder concerns. Renamed Paramount Skydance Corporation, the company's Class B shares will start trading on the Nasdaq under the ticker symbol PSKY from Thursday. The merger brings together a major player in the industry with a sprawling global distribution network and a prized film and TV library, including classics such as Breakfast at Tiffany's, with Skydance production and technological capabilities. The company will be structured into 3 business segments: studios, direct-to-consumer, and TV media, with the need to expand Paramount's technological capabilities, grow its streaming business, and prioritize cash flow. Now, the merger came at a time when Paramount was struggling with sagging traditional linear TV business as consumers shift to streaming platforms. Paramount took nearly $6 billion in write-downs on cable assets. The Federal Communications Commission cleared the merger last month, weeks after Paramount settled a lawsuit filed by U.S. President Donald Trump over CBS editing of a 60 Minutes interview with his Democratic opponent, Kamala Harris. women's sports, Manchester United reportedly agreed to Sesko deal. Now, 9 players from treble-winning Paris Saint-Germain have been nominated for the men's Ballon d'Or this year, along with the club's coach and Luis Enrique, as France Football announced the list of nominees on Thursday. Ousmane Dembele, Gianluigi Donnarumma, Desiree Doué, Achraf Hakimi, Khvicha Kvaratskhelia, Nuno Mendes, João Neves, Fabian Ruiz and Vitinha are all on the list of 30 players nominated for the big prize. Dembele scored 35 goals and claimed 16 assists in all competitions as PSG won the Ligue 1 title, French Cup and for Champions League, and were Club World Cup runners-up to Chelsea. Other nominees include Barcelona's Rafinha, Liverpool's Mohamed Salah, who was named a Premier League Player of the Season, and Manchester City striker Erling Haaland. Barca's Lamine Yamal made the cut, while the 18-year-old winger was also nominated for the Copa Trophy for Best Under-21 Player, an award he won last year. 5 England players were nominated for the Women's Ballon d'Or after their Euros triumph, including goalkeeper Hannah Hampton, Lucy Bronze, Alicia Russo, Chloe Kelly and Leah Williamson. Now, British media reported on Thursday that Manchester United have signed RB Leipzig striker Benjamin Sesko. United had reportedly offered a package of around £74 million for the 22-year-old Slovenia international, who at 1.96 metres tall has drawn comparisons to Manchester City's Erling Haaland. Part of the comparison to Haaland is that both played for Red Bull Salzburg before dipping a toe in the Bundesliga, Haaland at Borussia Dortmund and Sesko at RB Leipzig. Newcastle had battled Manchester United for the striker and offered a similar package to the German club, but Sesko preferred a move to Old Trafford. The 22-year-old was absent from RB Leipzig's pre-season friendly loss to Atlanta on Saturday due to his expected departure from the club. United have been pursuing a striker all summer and missed out on targets including Victor Gyökeres, Hugo Ekitike and Liam Delap. Villarreal have signed Ghana international Thomas Partey on a free transfer following the expiry of his contract with Arsenal. The 32-year-old defensive midfielder has signed a season-long deal and will join the Villarreal squad in training on Friday. Partey was charged last month with raping 2 women while he was a player for the Premier League club. He is accused of 5 counts of rape relating to 2 women, plus a charge of sexual assault against a 3rd woman between April 2021 and June 2022. Villarreal said in a statement that the club is aware that the player is currently involved in legal proceedings in England. The club, however, respects his presumption of innocence as a fundamental principle and is awaiting the verdict of the courts, which will be responsible for clarifying the facts of the case. In accordance with British law regarding ongoing proceedings, the club will not comment further on this matter. Partey made 167 appearances for Arsenal, scoring 9 goals after joining from Atletico Madrid in 2020. Villarreal, who beat Arsenal 3-2 in a pre-season friendly on Wednesday, began their La Liga campaign at home to promoted Real Oviedo on the 16th of August. And that wraps up World Today this time round. In our top story, Cambodia, Thailand agreed to allow border inspection by ASEAN observers. For business news updates, do join us tonight at 8:30 p.m. on TV1 or Saluran Berita RTM. Till then, I'm Moana Priya, Malaysia Madani, Rakyat di Santuni.